got the little top part for the bow cover cut, all the sides and stuff. Now we're putting 2x4 mahogany 2x4 under it, and the reason we're doing that is because we're putting a cleat here, and that's for the anchors and whatever else we tie to it. We had to tow the boat or something like that, and we want it maxed out. So this is a 2x4 mahogany. This is actual 2x4. It's a not really a rough cut, but it's a custom cut that I had done at the lumber yard. So I got this one here, and this of course is hole A. The port hole is port A. That's over there. The starboard port is port B, and the center hole of course is C, because C is center. How about that, huh? So we got this one here too. So basically what's going to happen is this here is going to mount on there like that, and then this whole piece, this actually this is actually going to go past the end there. This is going to go in here and snug down, okay, like that. Okay, here, hold that. You can let go. You can let go. And then this piece here, which is the cover, this mahogany will be pre-attached to that piece there, underneath it, epoxied and nailed. And then we'll insert it like this, like that, onto the boat. Ta-da, 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 ta-da. And then of course this little difference in thickness here, we'll just epoxy a nice angled slope here to blend in with this. So there we go. So now we've got our thick, solid mahogany 2x4 under here. We can drop our cleats in here. It slides under this nose tip too, to get a little more strength in case anything tries to rip it off. And it'll be nailed all the way down here and epoxied all the way here. It'll be nailed and epoxy, of course, going down the 2x4, and across this section here where this is the cross beam support here, it'll be nailed and epoxied all across here too. So this will be a nice solid piece on the bow tip of the boats. So that's what we did today. Where's the other one, honey? Oh, right there. Yeah, here, put that one on this one. And then we got to do roughly something with a 2x4 under here too. We doubled the thickness, so it was like a 1/4 inch, and then we put a 3/8 inch on top of here. So we got 5/8 of an inch thick plywood on the deck here. This is not 5/8. This is only 3/8, but it's got the 2x4 under it, going back to there for the cleat. And this one here, we're going to have to somehow get a skinny person. I think I may have mentioned this before. I'm not going to mention any names, but a skinny person can probably turn sideways and get under there, and then we'll prop a 2x4 going from this end here back is about, I don't know, maybe 2.5 feet, 30 inches roughly, and prop it up with other 2x4s, and then we'll of course epoxy on the top, and then we'll come over here and nail through here and epoxy and paint this top part where we nailed into that 2x4. And then of course the cleat goes right here, and of course the cleat goes there at the front, and the cleat goes there at the front, and there's 2 cleats at the back here. There's a cleat back there, and we're gonna have to do the same thing back there. But I think I got enough mahogany to do it all. These 2 don't need mahogany because that's all 2x4 anyway. But I got enough mahogany here, 2x4, to do that front and this rear. The rear is a short piece here, so I just put a mahogany, maybe 2 across, or maybe, yeah, across might be better at the back here. And I got a new rudder too, so that rudder days are numbered. That's a poor excuse for a rudder, by the way. So anyway, that's where we're at, but we got to wrap up for the day. That's all of our saw scraps here from cutting out our little design here. We'll of course fill this little area in here with epoxy so it all blends smooth and smooth. And this will all be sanded and smooth. It's rounded here too, because this is a sharp edge where we cut. It's just the cut edge. So we'll sand that all round and smooth, kind of like we do these. See, these are all rounded and nice, comfortable things that your hands will touch. So everything will be sanded, smoothed out, and beautiful, and functional. So functional is really my goal. If I can make it functional but not beautiful, then that's the way it goes. But so far we've been able to get close to beautiful, and we've nailed functional, I think. But I mean, we'll find out when we're in the ocean. All right, everybody, that right there was some of that. This is epoxy primer. Here, epoxy, it mixes and makes a hard coating. Very, very, very important for wood, and mixing with other stuff. And then we did one side of each of these, the bow covers here, and under the bow cover 2x4 support. As I said before, these will be nailed underneath these, epoxied and nailed, and then the cleat bolts will go through there and through those, and that way it shouldn't rip off. We'll see. So anyway, we got them painted, epoxy primered on. Well, as soon as this dries, we got to flip all these and do the other side, and soon we'll be back with more epoxy setting on the tree knocked down by the typhoon. Bye for now. There's the boats. Bye for now. Boat. It's hey, one. Bye. We are now sanding the little, these are the little end covers here, the bow covers that we epoxy lacquer thinnered. Well, we cut them first, of course, and made them fit perfect. Nice, smooth fits everywhere. Got to fill this in with epoxy when we nail it down. All this is all snug and straight and clean, and everything's nice, real nice. But we're sanding it. We're getting all the little bumps off. See these little white spots? Those are little bumps and stuff when we put the epoxy primer on. And hey everybody, you remember me telling you, or trying to explain, I was going to put this mahogany underneath this nose plate. It's not actually for that hole, it's for that hole there. And then the cleat will go, I'll drill holes through this. Of course it'll be over. I'll drill holes through that and put the cleat on. This side goes down, this side goes up, but right now we're letting the epoxy dry. On here we epoxied it and nailed it. The problem with the mahogany, when you use these bronze nails, that mahogany is hard like steel, and the bronze nails will bend because they're really soft. They're not like an iron nail at all, and they have like a round, like a little mushroom top head. I had a flat head, so when you hit it, it glances off and bends it this way and bends it that way. I don't know why they don't put flat heads on bronze nails, but they don't. They're round. So anyway, that is one of the front ones there. We got it epoxied, we got it epoxy primered. The front bow cover here for this one, epoxied and primered and everything for that, ready to be installed tomorrow. This one here is going to be ready to assemble like that tomorrow. We're going to have to epoxy it, so we got to let it, give it about a day to dry. And then we'll put the cleats on these guys here for the front. Then we got to figure out how to put a cleat on the front of that. We also got to put a little, I call it a little rooftop on top of this. I may have mentioned that before on the front of this, but I'll show you that tomorrow after we get these mounted. What does that look like? A bow cover. Oh yeah, that's right. It goes right there. It covers this bow. So we're getting it ready. I shaved a little bit off of here because it wouldn't fit, and then I shaved too much, but I couldn't get half of a slice. I had to cut into the wood some. So it's the thickness of the saw blade that I needed to shrink this by. So actually was able to do that just by cutting it off and taking the piece that I cut off and gluing it back, and now the thickness of the saw blade is what's missing. So we're in good shape now. So anyway, So we're putting all the epoxy on here, and then we'll come back and nail it all down after we're done. So we got Sergio over there mixing up some epoxy, and we will be back with more after we stick this thing on there. And then after that, we'll drill holes and put the cleat, you know, on the other side. And then we got to put like a little angle, a little point thing here. But I got to take some wood home or to my brother-in-law's house, because he's got electric, because there's no electric here, and I could use my saws to split some 2x2s into 1x2s, because that's what I'm going to use here, 1x2, and I'm just making 1x2 here, and probably put a little plywood cap on there. So that will be that, and we will be back with more putting the bow covers on. Bye for now. Ready? Alright, we basically have this on here. We're still doing the finishing touches on the epoxy, smoothing this out so it's a kind of a nice rake, and going and filling these little gaps between here and here, because see, we've got to put a little epoxy there. And also there's a fine line here that doesn't have any epoxy in it. We got to jam it down in that little place. No, honey, not your fingers. We need the putty knife. Not your fingers, honey. We need the putty knife. And then back here, we're all sealed off pretty good here where those two meet. So we're looking pretty good. And like I said, we also have to put like a little V point on here, so the water that splashes up runs back in the ocean. Whatever little bit, a 2-inch V will block. So we're whipping up some more epoxy over here, and we will be back after we goop it on, trying to do a neat job. Bye for now. Alright, we got this bad boy on here. We're gonna let it dry, and then tomorrow we'll put the cleat on here, and also probably the little V front, and we need to maybe put a little plywood top on there or something, or maybe not. Some boats have the top on there and some don't, so we'll see. And then when we have electric, I'm gonna have to come back and put a grinder on this one here. But this needs non-sag epoxy, because this is not non-sag, and it just keeps running down because it's thick. If you get it thick, epoxy will try to just lay out and go flat on you. But when you put it thick like this, it just runs off. But you can't really stop it unless you buy non-sag. Non-sag is like a yellow color, and it stays up better, not perfect. And if it's in the sun, it really doesn't. It sags pretty badly. So non-sag, though, in general works better. Not perfect, but better. So we will be back with more. They're just trying to put a little water on your fingers, and then you can kind of smooth some of these things where we covered up the nails with the epoxy to give them a good seal. So we will be back with more from my paradise on Italian Island. One bow cover, not quite done. We still got to put the cleat on and the little front thing, and then paint it. So bye for now. All right, I think we finally got this thing in, epoxied and all the stuff. We still need to sand, and we still need to put the little V thing here at the front, kind of close, so when I do the V thing you don't really see it, but we'll do that in a little. You'll see that. We got this transition in here. We need to sand it, obviously, make it all smooth, but everything looks good. We got the sides built up to where they're nice and plenty of epoxy, and then we'll sand this and finish it off. Finish off these edges here, and then we'll be good there. Now we're actually working on the other hole, hole A, as we call it. How do you bring that piece over here? But this one is more narrow in the front, so, and then we got the 2x4 cut. So we're rubbing on the sides when we try to see the 2x4 sets down in there. So we're having to chip away where the epoxy kind of laid out. You see how it laid out here and made it more wide? Well, that's fine there, but right where it goes into this thickness, we can't have that layout. It's got to be a sharp corner crease, and it's got to fit. So I've been chiseling that away, as you see, and there's some wood exposed, but whenever we epoxy it to this here, we'll fill that all back in with epoxy, and it'll be loaded with epoxy. And this side too, see, this side is actually this side when we flip it. So let's flip it And then we got this little piece here, goes under here to keep it from lifting. And that should go down, and everything should pretty much go down. We got a little bit here at the front. You see that little gap right there? This needs to go down a little bit more. It's a little bit. I'll find out where it's rocking at. But anyway, this gap, we got to close that gap. So we got to shave a little bit more, probably off that 2x4, and make it go down. The rest of it, I think, is going to go down. The back isn't going down because we got to shave a little bit off of the back. Okay, lift this up. Oh, yeah, reach under there, see if that's rubbing.
It's not rubbing. There's a
gap?
Gap like this.
There's a gap? Okay.
Yeah, like
Okay. So we're up a little bit here. It needs to go down, so maybe just need to trim some more on this side. So we will do that, and we'll be back. Go take it out. We got our hammer and chisel set up over here. We just chisel on the sides and get them to where they're all ship shape. See right here, we got to take some more off of this side here. So we'll do that, and we'll be back with more from my paradise. Chiseling the bow covers. Bye for now. Everybody, what we're up to now, as you can see, look at all these lines, huh? What I was doing was drawing various distances from here, which is, of course, the front of where these little load distribution static waves go. And I was checking if we took the point, well, what we're going to do is build something like that. Not exactly like that, because it may not have the top, and it may not have this recessed area here. I don't know. We'll see. But what we're doing is, with the various lines here, we're just seeing how good 5 inches out, 8 inches out, and 12 inches out look. 12 inches out looks the best. The problem is, with 12 inches, once you put the cleat here, you kind of start running out of room to wrap your rope and stuff, and you start hitting that and whatever. So we went back to 8 inches, and that seemed to be a pretty good compromise. So what we're doing, we cut these guys here 8 inches, and we put on the center line and over there, and we put on the center line and over here, and voila, we have a little splash diverter, little wave diverter, little water diverter like that. I mean, obviously they're not high end, they're more aesthetics than they are water diverter, but they do divert water. So that's what we're doing right now. We may cover it with plywood like that, and we may put a little piece between here and here and block it off, and then put a little cover on top. So we'll see. Once we get this part done and everything nailed down, then we can kind of mock up a little plywood cover top for it and see how that looks. But we definitely want this, and we're trying to blend this in here on the side where this kind of blends into here, and it's got the same slope here. See this little angle? It's kind of an S. We're trying to continue with that kind of a theme here, like on the back with the S for the step. So not exactly the same, but still, we're trying to keep with the theme. So anyway, oh, we got the other one on too this morning or afternoon here, and again we got these guys already made up, ready to go. For this one, it's basically the same one. Just his hole is more narrow than that one. That one's a little bit wider, maybe about an inch wider than this one is, because of how the wood bowed. We had a piece of red Loire on this side that wouldn't bow good. They had to soak it with diesel and try to get it to bow more, but that's as good as they could get. So again, these are handmade boats, so nothing is exactly the same. Not like assembly line. So anyway, so that one's going to go here like that. Side view shot there. So hopefully that'll all look good and be functional. So and again, there's that one, and this one here, as you can see, you know, has a little underside here. So that frame, ours won't on this one, or maybe we'll blend something. I don't know. We'll see. But right now we got epoxy primer this and re-epoxy primer this, because after nailing and blending this thicker plywood here into the thinner plywood here. See, we got a little down ramp there, if you can see the little angle there. So we had to blend all that in and everything, and sand all these places where there was nails, because you epoxy over the nails so that they're sealed good. So anyway, we got to epoxy primer this, put a good thick coat of epoxy primer on that, epoxy primer these bad boys. Then after they're dry, then we can nail them down. We'll have to drill holes through here because I want to put big nails through here. And again, you know, there's a big heavy mahogany 2x4 under the center of this, so I'm going to drill 2 holes here and nail these in. And then over here I'll have to drill a hole about here and nail it into this thick side rail here, and the same here. So we'll basically only have 2 nails, one here, and one here, and on each side, and here. And then of course the rest will be all epoxied. And then if we get the cross brace there, again we'll have 2 nails here, and we'll have nails from here going into the cross brace and here into the cross brace. So, and everything will be epoxied, so it'll be a nice sturdy secure thing. So we are going to get busy mixing up, because you have to mix the epoxy primer just like you mix epoxy, and it hardens, you know, over pretty quickly too, so faster than the epoxy does. So you gotta once you get ready to mix it, you gotta be ready to slap it on. So we're gonna go do that, and we'll be back with more from my paradise from Italian Island. Water deflectors coming up. Bye for now. We got this guy epoxy primered here, so we're gonna have to sand him afterwards. These are just brush strokes. Epoxy primer's kind of thick, so, and our brushes were not the new brushes, they were kind of reused ones that we had cleaned up after painting or epoxy primering the last time. And we got our little water deflectors, epoxy primered, and letting them dry. And again, this stuff will dry faster than paint, faster than enamel for sure. Enamel takes forever to dry, as we're finding out over there. We're still, we just repainted these for the last coat. Mine, the long ones, they're pretty good. They're already ready to go. So when that enamel dries, that's 2 days, 3 days, really? 2 or 3 days. 1 day they're still tacky. 2 days it's probably close to dry, but if you're going to work with it and, you know, kind of smash it and bang it, you really want to go for at least 3 days. That's what I'm doing. I don't know what the official rule is, but 3 days is what I'm kind of seeing is a better way to do it. So we got this guy, like I said, epoxy primer. Got those little guys epoxy primer. We got that cover on and epoxied. And the reason we epoxy primer this, because I use my disc sander on here with I use a flexible wheel. I thought it'd be a little less aggressive, but it's a little flexible wheel here. It's very thin, but it just it just eats everything up. So we went down to the wood in a lot of places just trying to get it all smoothed out. So I just re-epoxy primered. We're going to do this one too, because we still got epoxy primer these guys here. So we might as well, I'll grind it with that grinder, and then epoxy primer it also along with these. And then I'll probably have to do a cross brace and maybe a plywood top. We'll see how that goes. So we got our epoxy primer stuff right there, and we will be back with more. We got an extra liter, so that's plenty to do what we need to do. So we'll be back with more from my paradise on Italian Island. Bye for now. Yeehaw. Look at them bow covers. Hey everybody. Bye for now. We are here, and we actually, I didn't tell you what we were going to do, but anyway, that's all the epoxy primer. Those 3, well, there's actually 4 cans. There's another little can somewhere. That's lacquer thinner. That's what we clean our brushes with. And then those are epoxy, and one of those is paint. This one's paint. Those 2 are regular epoxy. So anyway, what we did this morning, we actually sanded this down. This is the one we put on yesterday, the front bow cover. So we sanded it all down, got all nice and smooth, and then we put another layer of epoxy primer on there, because when we sand it, sometimes we cut through the primer and then the wood's exposed. So now we're doing the final epoxy primer on here, and you can see there's a lot of brush strokes and stuff, because that's I don't know. Yeah, you can see them. Pretty sure you can. That's because it's thick. It's not thin like normal paint. So you get a lot of brush strokes. So after this dries, we'll sand it with our little vibrating sanders. And we also have our little water deflectors that we epoxy primered too, and we got them propped up there drying. So the next thing we're going to do, grab the sander, and we're using 60 grit sandpaper on these, which is kind of heavy, but it makes it work faster. And this one we epoxy primered yesterday, so now we're ready to sand him. He's all dry. Normally they say epoxy primer dries pretty quick, but I'll be honest with you, it took all night for this stuff to dry. But there's some thick spots. You can see some really thick things where when I put the painted it on, it's got like almost like a rough wood grain look to it. But we're going to sand all that down, smooth it out pretty good. Probably not perfect, because as you can see, anywhere in this boat you got little, you know, texture. You can see the texture from, these are handmade boats. These aren't machine made and fiberglass gel molds and all that stuff with what's that coating? Yeah, gel coat on the outside and stuff. This is all handmade stuff, and it so you can detect that, you know, just with like I said, we're gonna sand this, so, but there's a little, there's little imperfections everywhere, and that's fine with me. We're soaking our brushes in paint thinner, get them all clean, and we're gonna go to town sanding. So we will start sanding, and we'll be back with more from my paradise on Battalion Island. Bye. Right, here we go. This is the basic sanding. We should be wearing a dust mask. I'm gonna ask my wife to stop and put on a dust mask, because this epoxy dust is irritating. It irritates your skin and irritates your lungs and stuff. So we're gonna put on a mask, and then we'll do it the right way. Bye for now. You know, we got our little splash deflectors here, but I got enough wood. I got a 1x2 and a 1x2 for this side of the V and that side of the V and that side of the V over there and both sides of the V there, but I don't have any for the back, or maybe even like a center line if I decide to put a center line in there. See, those are the little pieces that I have just for, so I need more wood. So what I got, the way I got those 1x2s is I had a 2x2 mahogany, which is what this bad boy is, and you see that line? That's the center line. So I'm going to use my skill saw, and I'm going to split this down to about there, and then flip it around and split the rest of the way, and then I'll have two more 1x2s for the backs of the V front, little back, and maybe a center line, like I said. We'll see how much wood I've got. I think I had enough for all that, center line and that. And then we'll make a plywood little triangle top like you saw earlier on that center hole out of this wood here. This is a 3/8 inch plywood. So I'm going to split that, and then we'll be back with more from my paradise on Battalion Island. Bye for now. Look what we got. We got the water deflector on the front of this first bow cover here. So that's the first one. We're going to put another cross piece from here over to here, from where it's square right here at the top to this corner over here at the top. There's going to be a piece across here, and there may be a center strip too, so we can nail and then we'll put a plywood top on here. So we'll see how all that goes. It's kind of, let's ad-libbing it right now. So anyway, we got that done, and we got the other one sanded over there. We're going to need to, after we cut all this wood, here's our wood that we cut yesterday. You saw me splitting that 2x2 into 1x2 and then sanding it to make it smooth. So I'm going to start working with that. I'm going to cut that to the size, then I'll cut a center one, and then we will have to epoxy primer those, and then we'll go to work over there on that one. Maybe, I don't know what we're going to do, because the problem is, after you epoxy primer, you got to wait a day, because nothing that's, even though it's primer and you can mix hardener in it, it still takes about a day for it to dry. So we will be back with more. Well, we'll cut all the wood for that one, I think, and get everything epoxy primered and ready for the next day here to do everything, and then we got to cut the plywood too. So maybe we'll cut the plywood. Oh, we'll see. But that, yeah, we're gonna do that. We're gonna cut all the miscellaneous pieces, epoxy primer it, and cut the plywood. Bye. Hey everybody. What are those two V things that are missing from that piece of plywood? Oh, there it is. It's our little tip covers. It's our little splash, ocean spray splash covers. I'll show you one over here that we got. Basically what I did is I took and made a little cardboard pattern of just this part, and then I added like an inch overhang here and here, and then I lined it up with this back closer and cut the cardboard there, and then it came, and then I laid it on a piece of wood, plywood, and then I added the inch here and the inch here, and voila, we got our, so this goes in here, this goes in here, see like this. This guy goes here, basically, right about there, to the back. I'm not going to put a center one in. I was going to, but it's like it just doesn't need that kind of support. And then this guy goes on here, like about like that. There's a little overhang here, because if I made this longer, well, I could actually cut this and make it shorter. I could cut that one and slide it in more, but I ended it at this, where the flat spot stopped. But anyway, basically that is what we've got right there. Ta-da, lined up perfectly. That's our little water deflector gizmo. And she's ready to epoxy primer. And then we can epoxy it on there, nail it, all that stuff. And this guy will be pretty much done, except we do, I don't know if we need to paint in here or not, because this is going to be all sealed up. It's got epoxy primer, but we do need to obviously paint everything. We'll probably put this on last and paint this, and then nail this on last. Everything else will be put on. This will be on. We'll paint everything, and then we'll paint this, both sides, and then we will mount it and nail it. And then we're going to have to epoxy and fill the little nail holes, and probably paint it again. So maybe we won't paint that. Maybe the bottom. Paint the bottom but not the top. We'll just primer it. So we pretty much got this guy the way we need it. And this one over here, like I said, we got it all cut and mocked up, ready to go. These aren't epoxied or nailed yet. And we're doing the little rooftop for this one. She's sanding it, make it all nice and fancy, smooth. So we will be back with more fixing the bows with the splash ocean spray. Excuse me, ocean spray deflectors. Bye everybody. Well, we got everything all mocked up and cut all the pieces and everything, and now we are epoxy primering these. These are like the little triangles that go on the tops of our points, our ocean spray deflectors. These are the two sides for this one, and the two backs, one for this one and one for the other hole over there. So we're just about ready to go for the day, because we got to wait for all this stuff to dry. We keep coming here thinking we work a whole day, you know, but you really can't, because once you get everything done, you get all your wood cut and everything, then you're waiting for epoxy primer to dry. And you think, as I said before, that it's epoxy, you mix it up. I mean, regular epoxy will dry pretty hard in about 3 hours, but really 24 is what optimal, you know, to get it 100% or 98, 99% cure. But this epoxy primer, it takes 24 hours. It's not ready to touch, you know, and mess around, or sand, really. That's what we do next. We sand it for 24 hours. So we'll let all this dry, and then we will be back and assemble it. So bye for now. There's the boat. There's the other one. You can see it. We'll zoom in. Right there. That's the shot right there. As you see, we got the two nail holes drilled here so it doesn't crack the wood. They're not going into the wood there, because that's not going to split. Well, shouldn't split. But this could split. So we put a big enough hole here for a nail. Where's the nail? we'll go get a nail. Now I'm going to drill another hole here. You can watch us drill it. And then, like I said, I got switched to a smaller bit. Drill a hole here, drill a hole here, drill a hole here going into that one, and a hole here going into that one. And the size nail we're using, I think it's a 3-inch. But these things get pretty fat, see, like that. So that hole, even though it's that big, it's about right. So to keep this thing from splitting. So that nail and the bit, you can kind of line up your bit with your nail. See, compare the width of the nail. See that? It's very close to the width of that drill bit. So very good. And these are square nails, by the way. Bronze nails are square; they're not round. So anyway, that's what we're doing. And I'm going to drill this other hole.
I don't know which
Here,
nails then.
hold that. And I'm going to drill this hole. And ready?
Yeah.
You have to pull the bit out because it loads up with wood, and then it won't drill. And again, this drill bit's not long enough to go into the wood there, so I'm not worried about drilling into the wood. But even if I did, it's lined up with the lines, and that's where the nail goes anyway. So, but see how this thing loads up with wood, and then you can feel it. The drill starts to struggle with that. And see, it didn't even come through, but it should go through. It should make a little dent on the other side. Nope. No dent, so, oh yeah, maybe it did right there. Right there, there's a little tiny bubble right there. I think that's it. Yeah, that was it. So now we got a hole clean through. Yeah, I can see light, I can see you, I can see the camera right there. Boom. Okay, now I switch bits, as I said, and we're going to drill the smaller holes. So I'm going to do that, and we'll be back with more. Putting these little ocean spray splash guards on. Bye for now. All right, everybody, we got it epoxied. We just did this one strip here because we already had these two done and nailed and everything. These bronze nails are very soft and they'll bend, and they got round heads. So what you need to have on your hammer on this is not a smooth head. If you can scratch it with a file, make a cross grid pattern on here, something that gives it some traction on those heads, it's way better. If you got a smooth head on your hammer, it's going to bend these nails, all these little bronze nails. They'll just glance off this way, glance off that way. They'll start bending because they're so soft. So it's not easy to do this. Anyway, we are going to go do the other one, and we'll be back with more. Well, we're going to clean up the putty here, and then we'll be back over there doing that one. Bye for now. I think we got a finished product. Well, not a finished product because it's not painted. I mean, it's epoxy primer, but not painted. But yeah, here's all of our little water deflector here. Ocean spray water deflector. And that's a common thing on the front of these boats here. They put that on there, and just to get water that splashes up here to run off and down and back into the ocean. Doesn't really work for a big way, but it works. I mean, how high would you make it? 6 feet? No. Okay. Ready? We have put our first coat of paint on these little bow cover water deflector thingies, as you can see. We're going to have to sand it and all that stuff too. So this is first coat. Problem with the roll-on brush, it has a lot of little fibers, and I don't know if you can see them, but it put fibers all in there, so it's kind of a mess. So we got to sand all those fibers off. And the other thing we're doing is working on the trampolines that go between here, and I'll show you that in just a second too. But here we got this one here painted first coat, and again we got to sand it. We got some wrinkles and stuff like that we got to take out, and also again we got the fiber from the paint. Everybody, this is one of the holes that's we got the cover on and splash guard and all that stuff. This is actually a seat here where you can sit here. You, of course, you're facing the back. You could straddle over here and face the front if you wanted these little things sticking you. I mean, you could sit here too. Well, no, you can't sit here because we're going to have a cleat here. There's going to be a cleat there. And we will be back with more. So we got to leave these uncovered so they'll dry. which we don't normally do. We always cover stuff up, but we can't. It's wet paint. So we will be back with more from my paradise on Italian Island. A little bit of painting and some propeller work. Bye for now.